Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends and frenemies, welcome to episode number 13 of the Tefula Show. Real stories from real entrepreneurs. No huff, no puff, no fluff. We keep it real. We find out what makes entrepreneurs tick. How have they overcome the hardships? How have they got to where they are today? Today I have two amazing guests, Tara and Sarah. Welcome to the show, ladies.
Thank
you, Simon.
Where do we start? You guys are you're incredibly accomplished. Like, where do we start? First of all, tell me, how did you two guys meet?
Oh, it's quite a strange story, actually.
Let's hear it.
I guess everyone will hear our story about where we are now, but if you could contrast where we met compared to where we are now, it could not have been more of a roller coaster, honestly. So we actually met when we were doing a kind of finance internship together at a big institutional finance firm called BlackRock. And we did a couple of months together. I can't believe I met you on that, actually.
I can't believe it either.
Now I know you, it makes no sense.
It's the only good thing that came from that internship, other than the fact that I knew after that I never wanted to work in a corporate ever.
And that's what we agreed on.
So you guys hit it off straight away when you first met?
More so, actually, when we left.
Yeah.
So we're more. I mean, we connected via people when we were at BlackRock, but then once we left, we became better friends that way. I think I'm not entirely sure how it happened, but it's good. It was good.
And I definitely remember. So when I knew Tara in the internship, obviously there's a lot going on, so we didn't really, it was all very busy, and we didn't really connect as closely as we did when we came out, as you said. But I was amazed by this girl who was like, I was on your Instagram and I was like, wow, this girl is very cool, and knows a lot about social media, and she's so fit, and she can do all these amazing things. But I never realised we'd become as good of friends as we did. And then there was a kind of journey that ensued over the last 3 or 4 years. So.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
So quick question. So where were you born? Where'd you grow up? And same to you. What's that for you?
So my dad's Belgian,
cool.
And my mum's English. So I grew up in Belgium until I then went to boarding school when I was 13, and have stayed on in England, and then went to university in London at UCL, studied engineering, and I'm here. That's me in short.
Mm-hmm. Similar-ish story, apart from the Belgian and the boarding school part. So I grew up somewhere way less exotic. I'm from the Midlands. I'm actually from near Leicester. No one knows what that is, but it is north of the M25. And then I actually went to Cambridge, and I studied engineering as well. But I did a 4-year course, and I did my master's there as well, and I specialised in manufacturing systems and innovation, that kind of thing. So I suppose that was where the kind of love for creating things and businesses started, but I never really, it's not really a career path that's massively sold to you when you're doing a degree like that, especially a very academic degree. So
you went on to win Young Engineer of the Year, right?
Someone's been Googling.
Come on, you sent me the article, remember?
This?
I do my research on this show, but you sent me the article, you remember?
That's amazing.
Oh dear, Oh, I must have done, I guess. I didn't. I didn't really circulate that very widely, because at the time I don't think I was doing anything engineering. It might have been during my finance years. I can't remember, but
that's incredible.
Don't know how I blagged that.
The Young Engineer. That's incredible. And you then decided to you got a job working for a Formula One company as well, right?
Yeah.
How was that experience for you? Did you enjoy that or?
Yeah, I loved the idea of it. I think, and like any job, once you've done it for a while, I think you kind of. You fall into the pitfalls of it, and you start to see the kind of, the more routine side of it. And I'm not a creature of routine. I like to shake things up and keep aiming for the next goal and going on to the next thing. But the kind of team and the industry I was working in was incredible, but it was just kind of, I found the work quite repetitive in the end. And wanted to do something different. But that was a pretty interesting gig.
And so when you finished with BlackRock, when you finished uni, you went to BlackRock. That was your first kind of...
That was the internship that we did in our last year. My last year, yours penultimate year. I then went on to work in startups.com because I was fed up with anything that was larger than a startup and thought, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I know that I'm passionate about health and fitness, and I know that I've got a little bit of a tech background, so I applied for a fit tech company internship in marketing, which I knew nothing about, absolutely nothing about, and I got it by some miracle. I mean... The man who gave it to me, I'm still in touch with, and he's a legend. So I'm really glad that he gave that to me because he, led me on this path of learning everything that I can on the job and ending up here. Really.
Did you enjoy that?
Yeah, I mean, it was fun to a point. I was working 7 days a week, which for barely any money and for somebody else, and so it was still not ideal. But that was the only job I've ever had that was proper full-time job, and then I went freelance from there.
Yeah. So tell me, what is the company you run? What is it called? And how did you guys come up with this concept to start it?
So we are Content Agency London. We shorten it to CAL. So if you hear us talking about CAL, that's who we are. We offer content marketing solutions on a monthly basis that revolve around digital marketing and social media. So Sarah does all of the photography, and I do the other digital marketing parts, and we offer different services. So because it's just the two of us at the moment, we can tailor our packages completely to what the business wants. So we're able to either just deliver photos once a month, which I know is a mega pain point for a lot of smaller companies who may have some marketing in-house but don't have a photographer to help them every now and then. Anyway, we can then build on that and say, okay, we're going to post for you, we're going to write captions, we're going to help, or we're going to create campaigns, we're going to report on it, we're going to give you a whole social media strategy and deliver it. So that's what we do, I think. Anything to add?
No, that's pretty much it. And it's probably been a year.
Just over, Wow. I think.
Yeah, since we
incorporated,
Wow.
And it was both of our first businesses, first time we went on this journey, so it's quite a one that's close to our hearts.
That's amazing. Yeah. So when you first started, obviously, was that something that, because I know you bought a camera at one point, started doing photography. How'd you, tell me about that. Why photography? Why a camera? You could have. Is that something you always had an interest in before?
Yeah, a little bit actually. So I've always actually had a bit of a passion for helping people feel good about themselves.
Fantastic.
And the kind of photography that I do is always people focused. Okay. And I'm not really a landscape photographer. I can appreciate it, but it's never something I'm interested in because I really love the bringing out the best in people and making them feel good about themselves. Yeah. I'm not a photographer. I haven't done a photography degree, and I'll never claim to be some sort of photography guru, right? But what I do know is how to train myself up with a camera, work with professionals in the industry, and take a photo that I hope looks okay. And from feedback, it sounds like it's probably
fab.
It's probably all right. So this is just. I mean, it's amazing, really, if you look at where this started as well. But I bought a sort of £250 camera, second-hand, from a shop just behind Oxford Circus, actually. Yeah. Went in there, I was like, you got anything that will look blurry when I take the picture? And they were like, haha, you've got a lot to learn. Yeah. And then, so I did that, and I guess I just sort of, there was a couple of things I did. I watched a lot of videos and really trained myself up and tried to make sure that I was kind of ingesting as much information as I could about what happened in the industry and how to be a good photographer. So learning kind of second-hand that information. Second thing I did, massively through the help of Tara, was just getting out there and shooting with people. And at first, the first time we shot together, Tara was like, I've seen your pictures with some of your friends, you can take some alright photos, do you want to do some with me? And I was like, oh, I'm not very good. She's like, back yourself, do it.
Yeah, back yourself, absolutely. I mean, you can imagine how pleased I was because I have my social media channel. I now have a friend that can take photos of me, and good ones. I was thrilled, so I said, right, once a week, let's go. Which was good for both of us.
It really was. I learned so much, and then Tara introduced me to people in a network, and quite quickly we developed this team of people that we worked with who were in the Instagram industry who needed content, and that's kind of how the idea of all of this started.
That was the idea,
because there is this sort of unquenchable thirst for content, and people can't fill it because the content that you take yourselves often is just not thought through. It's not good enough in a lot of cases, and we realised that we were hitting some quite niche spots that were looking good, and we were producing it regularly, so sort of thought there might be a need for that.
And brands have this awkward connection with influencers almost. It's as if they do know how to work with them, then they're golden, but it's either the new ones or the very well established ones that don't really know how to interact with them. So to have a middle person, I'm not going to say middle man, middle human, woman, whatever, to say, right, forget about this. We've got all of the contacts. We know how to manage them and deal with them. We can offer this whole headache that you won't need to have. So that was where it came from.
That's incredible. What I really like about your story is that you two supported each other and you backed each other. Because in the beginning, it's so hard to get support, right? It's so hard to get, like, I have entrepreneurs and creatives on here who say, look, I created this thing and not, not even my family members supported me. Like, so did you reach out to a number of friends that you asked for support for and they didn't support you or did support? Like, did you get support from random places, Or?
We're quite lucky, aren't we? I mean, we're also quite privileged, just generally, to be surrounded by friends and family who love us and who will support us. And we've both been to top grade universities where we know clever people who can help us. So we've it's a mixture of being in the right place at the right time, having really good support network, and
backing yourself.
And absolutely backing ourselves. And that's something we've really had to learn.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Yeah.
Do you know, it's crazy because one of the things I do is I run my workshops every once in a while. I do these workshops and I find people from all kinds of professional backgrounds, right, that have these incredible skills, they have these ideas, but they are terrified of starting, like literally just scared of backing themselves. And I discovered in training all these people that it just comes down to self-confidence. You just have to believe in yourself a bit more. And like you always hear people say, what they call them soft skills. So, like communication and all this stuff. I honestly think that, self-confidence and communication, these are vital life skills, because if you don't back yourself, if you don't believe in yourself, nobody is going to believe in you, right? Like, and it takes a lot of work to get someone to that level. And it's great that you had a friend that was able, let's do it. Because if you don't, then, you find yourself in a really interesting place. So now that you've been going for a year, right? What do you know now that you wish you'd known starting out? Like, what are some of the things you've picked up on that,
A lot of stuff. It's just such a huge journey, and I think there's so many things we could say here, so I'll try and keep it brief and targeted. But one of the key things is really appreciate how far you've come regularly and be very disciplined about doing that, because it's very easy to get caught up in this very sort of negative and this turmoil of where you are in your journey and how far you've got to go and how, because with any business, right, there's infinite possibilities, there's infinite ways you could pivot, and there's a million different things you could do, and you can't be overwhelmed by what's coming. You need to kind of celebrate how far you've already come and use that to give you the confidence to tackle the next small hurdle, and then before you know it, you're a year down the line and you've got a portfolio of clients and whatever. So I suppose celebrate little wins.
Yes.
Regularly.
Like
with
that.
Bloody Marys.
Yeah.
Bloody Marys help everything. Every situation.
Yeah.
It's actually become like a regular thing in our meetings. I'm not sure.
It's great.
If that's positive or not.
Amazing. Wow.
But there is actually some like serious truth in that. The days will come and go. Some days will be bad. Some days will be good. And at the end of the day, you can serve a Bloody Mary and kind of, life goes on, right? Yeah. You can't get bogged down in the negative, and you have to be relentlessly positive in your mindset and your pursuit of a goal, and understand that it won't be easy. But I could ramble about these for days. So.
Two things I want to add. First thing is ask for help, which is something that you've taught me, because you're always the one going out looking for advisors and for people to, to mentors and all of this. And I really struggle with that. And so that's definitely something that I've learned. And I had another point and I want to remember it.
It was good. I know it.
Oh, come on.
What I can actually add, one of the things I was going to bring up as well, while you think of that, is, cool. You guys are incredible sales ladies. Like, you have these brochures, right? I have a website, like, I'm like, how the hell, because you did engineering at uni, right? Like, how the hell did you learn how to sell? I went to business school, I went to law school, no one taught me how to sell. I had to kind of learn it on the fly. But you guys just are really, really good at like putting yourselves out there and saying, okay, this is our proposition, this is what it is. How did you learn that skill?
One word, necessity.
Okay.
So when you've got a prospective client on the other end who's like, we need a deck, we need it tomorrow.
I've got my point back.
Continue.
Good.
When you have that kind of that need and that push, and someone's like, we need a deck tomorrow, you're like, well, either I can not do it or I can bloody learn fast now how to do it and how to make it look good. So, and also the second thing I need to say is I do not claim to be a good saleswoman at all. I feel like I've got so much more to learn in this space.
Trust me, where you are, I've been working in marketing for a few years. You are really good at putting yourselves out.
Also believe in ourselves and that sort of stuff. My other point was, and it's not like a nice point, but don't get your hopes up about things too much.
Oh, that's such a good one.
Because this has been massive, absolutely massive. We're like, okay, we've got a client.
Okay, and then it doesn't come.
Of course, we don't have a client. Well, now we're really skeptical about stuff all the time, because we should be. And instead of being like, 95%, we've got this down. 25 maybe, like take it or leave it, don't know. And it just manages our expectations a lot better. That's a really big one. That's probably the biggest thing I've learned.
Key takeaway from this podcast is that it's like in every, I can't remember where I heard this, but it was a good, I remember this actually came out of Entrepreneur First, shout out to them, incredible company. So one of their advisors I was talking to was saying that a good CEO never overreacts to any situation, the positives or the negatives, right? So you're not going around like, woo, nearly got a client, like time to celebrate. And you're also not bringing yourself down, being like, oh, we missed out on a client, this is the worst thing that ever happened, you know. So that's actually a huge one, and just not getting emotionally attached to the idea of things and not getting your hopes up. Huge. Completely agree.
Absolutely. It's all about, one of the quotes I always hear in the startup world is that, being a startup entrepreneur is not just about managing resources, managing money, managing people. It's also about managing frustrations, because it's like up and down, and like, you pitch for work, and you send out a pitch deck, and it's like, and you got to do it consistently over and over again, and it's a numbers game, and it's, but it's that thing that you were saying, that it's all about celebrating the tiny wins. Because if you wait for that big, like you try and wait for that big whole thing to come, it's not gonna, you wait until Jesus is the second coming. You just have to like keep going and going. That's really incredible. So tell me this, like if someone had an idea, right? And they were like, they had this thing that were trying to start, what would you say to them? What key pieces of advice would you give to them now? Start with you, like anything? Think about it.
Apart from don't get your hopes up.
Apart from don't get your hopes up, but also don't spend too much money chasing something that might not. I don't know. I mean, we were lucky because we had no startup costs, nothing. So we got lucky. But essentially, I know a lot of people who spent a lot of money trying to do something, and then you get into this awful cycle of like, oh, but I've spent so much already, and it's So do your research. Obviously, this is all standard stuff, but really do your research. That's what you would think, but a lot of people don't. Do your research. Make sure you have a good plan, and talk to a lot of people about it. Absolutely. Because people will pick it apart, and that's what you want. You just go to as many people as possible that you can trust about it, and see what happens. Because you can get yourself into this bubble of, I know what I'm doing. I got this, and it's very easy to just think that.
That's true. Yeah. Any tips for someone just starting up right now? Yeah,
I think everything you just said, Tara, and just bloody do it. This is my main piece of advice. And like we might touch on this later anyway, but like just to briefly mention, like, I'm a perfectionist by nature. I spend hours, fretting over the detail, and I will not send stuff to people until it's perfect. However, all of that, I'm a new person. You can't be like that. You can't afford to be like that when you're starting a business. You have to just get started, do it to 80% the quality, and that's not ideal, but usually it's good enough. You just have to get the momentum.
And then learn from that, whatever it is, all the time, and keep improving on whatever the 80% thing that you're doing is.
Exactly.
I mean, is there a moment, what's been like your highest high and your lowest low, if you care to share, in the past year, obviously, since you guys have kind of got this going, if it's something you care to talk about?
What's our highest high?
The lowest low is easy.
Yeah, the lowest low is so easy. Do you want to take this one?
But no, we have to be a little bit careful.
Right, we're not going to mention any names.
We've worked with a lot of people, but without going into detail, we nearly ended up in a deal where we were going to be doing a huge amount of work for absolutely no money.
For less than we would charge now for less than half the work.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
But it was going to be our first contract, so we were so excited. So excited.
Yeah, this is how you learn to not get
absolutely,
up,
absolutely, and charge more.
Because that's the other thing. In the super early stages, you're so keen to secure that contract that you're so scared of saying no and reduce. You want to reduce your price, but as you carry on, you get to learn that look, you can't compete on price, and you can't go around trying to, like, saying no is okay.
Yeah.
Because eventually, like, the right opportunity will come along, right?
Absolutely. And know your worth.
Yeah. Hugely agree, but then that was something I'm an absolute sucker for doing the whole, like, I just want the exposure, I just want a contract.
I think I've knocked that out of you now, right?
It's all Tara 100% was like, we will say no to people, we know our worth, we will not go in lower than this price. And lo and behold, we waited for long enough. In fact, it didn't turn out to be that long, it was like a couple of months. And the right client came along and it kicked everything off.
So let's finish the story. So we're so excited, we delivered this awesome proposal for loads of work and like no money, barely any money. And we deliver it, we're really happy, and she turns around and I really wish I still had the message, but it was something like, I thought, you know, you girls were just going to do this for free so that I could get some, you know, we could give you exposure and you could do this stuff for me for that.
Oh my God.
It was awful. It was absolutely awful. But it taught us, first of all, like, don't get your hopes up. Second of all, make your intentions clear. So don't go through something and then at the end have someone say, oh, I thought you were doing this for free. Say, right, here are our fees at the first. Or say at least, we're charging for this. Or something along those kind of lines in the first. Because otherwise that might happen.
So the other thing I always like to bring up in this show is mental health and stress management, right? Like, being a startup entrepreneur or a creative is really, really difficult. And it's really stressful. It's almost like an open secret within the startup world. A lot of people kind of just like, you know, they're really stressed. How do you guys manage your stress levels? You know, demands from clients to meet deadlines and finding, like, what do you do to distress and stuff with you? And
I think you're probably
start, me?
You're better at this than me, so you start.
Which might even be better for you to talk about it then, essentially. But I'll start anyway. I mean, first of all, it's really nice that it's an open secret, that everyone actually talks about this now. So that we can all understand that we're not alone in feeling how we feel when we're running our own businesses. But I've always been a really active person, and I stay really active, and I make time all the time, almost every day without fail, between everything else that I'm doing, to stay active, do my sport, and it really, really helps. And also to find time to wind down when I need to. And it really, really does help. Find something you like doing that gets you out the house and gets you to drop all the thoughts. Whatever it is, it doesn't have to be sport, it can be something else, it can be something arty or something creative, whatever it is, but something that makes you completely drop all the thoughts of the business and the stress and whatever it is, just for however long it is, once a day, and then get back to it. Helps.
Because you run some fitness classes, don't you, as well?
Yes, I do teach. I've been teaching since I teach indoor cycling classes. I've been teaching for almost 10 years.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean... Technically, without having obviously incorporated a business, that was my first business. I got to uni and I thought, hey, how am I going to make some money?
Yeah, exactly. Right?
So I started teaching cycling classes and just haven't given up because I don't need to yet. So we'll figure it out. It also ties into the mental health aspect of, you know, I can get myself out of the house and I've got something else to do. It just helps that I'm making some pocket money on the side from it, which isn't so bad.
But you, Sarah, how do you manage the stress levels? And
so I'm open about not being as good as Tara at this, and I think at the moment as well I'm going through a really, really intense period of work, because I'm involved in this business, and then also I'm CEO of another business as well, which we'll talk about another time, I'm sure. But when the work comes, it really comes. It really comes. And when you're having a bit of a quiet period, it's the best time in the world. But when the work comes, it can be really, really heavy, and I'm in a position where I've got that on both fronts at the moment. We're having a crazy Cal month and crazy month on every front. So there's a few things I do to try and keep myself sane. One of those is Trello, which I'm obviously going to mention because I'm like a Trello ambassador. I'm not actually a Trello ambassador, but I could be if they see this and
we should try and set that up somehow.
Honestly, I live for Trello. Which
for those that don't know what Trello is, what is Trello?
What? Trello is, no, I'm joking. Trello is an amazing, it's a to-do list, but it's kind of a slightly more advanced to-do list because you can categorize
It's really sexy.
But it changes your mindset from what a to-do list is, because it allows you to put things such as blocked, in progress, because you can't, what the problem with a lot of people's productivity with to-do lists is they look at it and they're like, oh, well, I sent that email, but I'm waiting for replies, so I can't really tick it off. And then, oh God, it's huge, and I don't know what to do with it. Trello, you can actually categorize that. And every morning and every night, it's the first and last thing that I look at work-wise, so that I absolutely know what's coming the next day. And I take away the stress of being like, oh, what do I have to do? Is there stuff left over that I haven't done? Because I know everything that I need to do tomorrow is listed and it's there, and that's fine. So that but that hasn't really addressed the mental health question. That addresses like how I try and manage my time. But in terms of mental health, it's still something I'm working out. But I will always try and take a day off every week. Okay. A completely free day, where I'm not doing any work. And I think if that doesn't happen, you can get into this cycle where you're like, well, there's an extra few hours in this day, I could just do a cheeky bit of work. But you really start to notice a bit of a plateau in your productivity. And the other thing that both Tara and I do when we can, we're in a very fortunate position where we're able to afford travel a lot of the time, whether that's from like our client work or with whatever we're doing. So having a kind of a proper holiday booked in, it could be anywhere, it could be in England, for a few days where you do not work and you have an end point that you're kind of like, you're in a mad sprint and then you have that end point and that's going to be your downtime. That really works for me. Okay. As someone who's bad at keeping it chill in the week, I tend to work better on like a sprint and then downtime. Yeah. Fantastic, great.
Sleep? Do you guys... Are you like hustle, no sleep, or like do you actually like
love
sleep?
Love sleep. Nice. So much love sleep. I'm like somewhere between 9:30 and 10:30 in bed, sort of thing. That's my jam.
Cool. Cool.
You really are actually. It's impressive.
Yeah. I mean, it's down to Mark actually. It's his fault. But I'll take it. That's fine.
So, ladies, a piece of tech that you love that you can't do without.
I know this is really lame, but I'm going to go with my calendar. And it's not even any special calendar. It's just the calendar on my phone, the Apple calendar.
Yeah.
It tells me when I'm next going on holiday. Yeah. Very important when I'm stressed. Yeah. It just tells me absolutely everything. And I keep everything on there. And I couldn't live without it. I would be completely lost without it. Yeah. Which is really bad, actually. But it's okay. It's good. It's fine.
Yeah. How about you?
Good. Yeah, I agree with the calendar actually. I think you just have to track everything in there, and in particularly busy periods I will even chunk out work time. I'll be like working on this proposal at that point.
Yeah, there's also this thing of doing different things as part of the job, or I mean we're both working a few different jobs at the same time, so to have a sort of segmented week of okay, this is when I'm working on this is what I'm working on this is what I'm working on this, it's really important for my brain to process what's going on.
Yeah, definitely. And then I guess in terms of the kit that we take out every day, obviously as a photographer, the camera stuff is pretty important, but it's not, I guess it's not the main bulk of what I do. So we'll do a few hours shooting and that will produce a whole load of work and content that we then need to work with and deploy. So actually most of my time is spent on my laptop. Noise cancelling headphones, absolute lifesaver. Everyone who knows me knows that I just love the noise cancelling headphones, love a nap. So the two key things you need to know. One enables the other actually as well when you're travelling. But they just allow, so for me it just allows me to go into the zone anywhere. So if you're in a busy place, if you're travelling, you can put them on and you are in your quiet environment and you can work. So obviously that laptop, phone is pretty much all the kit we need to do a day's work, I'd say. Yeah.
Cool. So in terms of a book, is it a book you've read recently that has a book you've read that has impacted you the most, or had the most kind of impact on you? What's that for you, Sarah?
Yeah, we're going to be honest here. We're pretty poor at the non-fiction reading, and that's
what about we can get fiction.
Yeah,
can't
get fiction.
We?
Yeah, exactly.
Get fiction.
Yeah, we learn lots of stuff.
Fiction, so that's something I want to get better at, definitely. And I know there's a wealth of great books out there, and I am starting to get better at non-fiction reading. So at the moment, I'm midway through a book by Reid Hoffman, who was one of the key founders of LinkedIn and sort of very involved in the Silicon Valley scene, but he talks about the concept of blitz scaling, and you've probably noticed a sort of acceleration in how interested I am in like growing companies at the moment, because it's a very inspiring book, and it talks about the process of scaling incredibly fast, kind of at the expense of efficiency and taking on more risk, but with the idea that you're scaling so fast it doesn't matter because you'll have the customer base at the end to support you, and then the rest will follow. So an example of that is obviously Uber, who established their market dominance and then kind of worried about the profit and loss side afterwards. But that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, getting better at reading non-fiction.
Anything that comes up?
Well, interestingly, I used to feel really... I don't think self-conscious is the right word, but almost really insecure that I just can't read non-fiction books. My mind wanders. I don't find them interesting or gripping enough that I can't read them. And I used to sit and read pages and then realise I haven't taken anything in, so read the page again and again and again, and it used to drive me absolutely nuts. So I then shelved all of that and thought, you know what, reading's not for me. And that lasted a few good years of I'm just not going to read. And now I've picked up fiction again. And I've realised that I do actually like reading, and it's been quite a nice mental process for me to realise that I was just reading the wrong books, really. I read a really interesting book recently called Americana. I don't know I can't remember her name, which is really sad, but she was fantastic. She's about a Nigerian girl who moves to America and is a blogger and blogs about her experience in America, and it's absolutely brilliant. Just shows you showed me a whole side of life that I didn't really understand, and you don't know that you don't understand until you read a book like that where you think, whoa, stuff is happening that I don't feel because I'm in this bubble where we just don't feel this. And it was really interesting, really eye-opening.
Interesting, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, I've had lots of people on this show that don't necessarily like reading, and they say that the option of audiobooks, for example, makes it easy because it's kind of like something they can listen to on the go.
I need to try that.
And it's made a difference. So it's just, it's one of those things, because there's lots of things we're never really taught in school, and you just kind of pick up on stuff as you go along. So reading or listening to an audiobook here and there helps. Okay, who is a person or a group of people that have influenced you the most today? Like, let's say one person. Like, start with you.
No, mummy.
Oh,
you know what? Even if she wasn't my mum, she's still an amazing person. I would have really liked to know her even if she wasn't my mum. So I don't say that because she's she's the woman who brought me up, but essentially because she's an amazing person, and she just. Yeah, she's a bit intense. Yeah, I'll give her that. She's very intense. Yeah. But you can't help but listen and get on board with everything she's saying, because she's, for the most part, she's intense, but she's right. And she's takes it. I mean, she's the most hardworking person I know, and has some really interesting stories to tell, and does a lot of research and talks about really interesting things, and she's great.
Yeah, and I can vouch for that. She's not my mum, but A, I feel like she is, and B, genuinely such an incredible role model for young women everywhere. The things she's achieved in her life, and that should be a whole other podcast. In fact, there are podcasts out there that your mum has done.
Yes, there is actually. There is a Rena Iney podcast somewhere for listeners if you Google her.
Wow. Yeah. But you have this incredible mentality. We've already spoke about how you were pretty much my inspiration for backing myself and charging for services and becoming a business person. And I think you get a lot of that. Sort of you had that
mum.
Passively from your mum and also directly, and she's been a huge influence therefore on both of us and everything we've created. So genuinely she's absolutely one of our key role models.
Shout out to my dad quickly also, because I feel like I can't mention mum and not mention him, because he's also a legend, an absolute legend, and very smart in his own way, who dropped out of university because he went to some crappy university in Antwerp, and just thought, and worked his way up from being the lowest paid person in the company to now CEO, and has been for a long time. And is brilliant, and is also still learning, and has accepted that, and it's good. It's good. I've got.
Yeah, I was going to ask you actually. I forgot to ask, which is, do you have any family members that are entrepreneurs or started something in the past before that you've maybe picked up a few tips from, or is it just you guys first generation entrepreneurs?
No, not at all. My family's very, very different. So I think where I grew up in the Midlands, entrepreneur's not really a career choice.
Yeah, I'm from the Midlands too, so
yeah, cool.
Birmingham.
But I mean, for you, was being an entrepreneur something that was...
Hell to the no.
Exactly.
I've got African parents. It's like, you need to go to university.
Oh, yeah.
Get a degree fast. And then you can do whatever you want. Anyway, that's essentially like the whole...
Yeah.
Having said that, though, my dad made one major entrepreneurial move, which was like leaving, Uganda to move over here to start all over again.
Yeah,
That is, although he was not necessarily an entrepreneur, he actually did kind of just restart. And so I guess that's something I've learned from in life. But it's always interesting to hear people's perspectives, because when I was at uni, I grew up with a flatmate, I lived with a flatmate that, he came from a family that owned a number of shops, so he knew how to do inventory, tax returns. He knew all these things, and I was like, wow, it's amazing. So yeah, I just wanted to know if you guys had that experience from a family member. And cool. So I think the one thing I'll also ask is, I do this thing called Simon Says, or Simon T Says, which is like 1 minute of motivation, inspiration, and encouragement to encourage other people on Monday mornings to get through the Monday, the week. What is that one piece of motivation, or what would you say to somebody to hype them up? To them, look, you can do this. You already kind of hinted at something, but I don't know. I'll just let you.
Yeah, I mean, my big one is do something that scares you every now and then, because you never know what's going to come of it, and it's usually some good results out of that.
Absolutely, I like that.
And I think I already alluded to this earlier, but don't be a perfectionist, and just make a start. And I think people always say this, but genuinely, just make a start. Stop making excuses. Get your blog up, get your website up. It's actually only you can do it all in a day, and you can make that start in a day with 90% of things that people will be wanting to make a start on. So just do it, and stop making excuses for yourself.
The other thing you said that has really stood out for me in this episode is back yourself.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
It's something that resonates with me
just
so much.
Just believe in yourself.
I have a lot of thoughts on this as well, because all of my roles at the moment are so dependent on my mindset and how I go into meetings and the outcomes I want to get. But there are many days where I come home and I'm like, God, that was a bad day, and so many people had so many negative things to say, and it almost felt like 20,000 steps back after my one step forward. You have to be relentless. I said this before, but you have to be relentless with your positivity and in your backing yourself, and you have to truly believe it. And you on days like that, I have to say, right, well, just think of what's it going to look like in 5 years. Don't dwell on today. There are always going to be setbacks. There's always going to be people who don't like what you're doing. You can't please everyone. Just think of how you get here and forget about what you're doing today. But that really is the part of entrepreneurship, I think, that people don't talk about, that and the kind of loneliness, which is a whole other discussion as well. But
amazing, cool. So where do you see Carl in the next 3 to 5 years?
This is an interesting one, and we've been thinking about this a lot recently, because obviously the nature of what we do at the moment is quite service focused. So we do the content and the content bundles, and they're kind of a product, but as both of us are interested in tech, we kind of want to take it down a bit of a tech startup route. So carry on the services side, but also grow out some sort of scalability and some sort of product range. And we've got a few really exciting ideas for what it's going to look like, and a few collaborations already in the pipeline. We can't go into them too much yet, but the general roadmap will be scale this into something that becomes a bit of a platform, probably with some technology aspect to it, and then turn it into something that becomes kind of very important to businesses in this space, and whatever that might be. So we have a sort of roadmap, but we're keeping it open while we work out which avenue you want to go down.
We also have all the resources that we need, really, so we're in a really good position to do it. So
Amazing, cool. So how can people connect with you guys?
All of our social media.
Our social media.
We do have a website. We're contentagency.london, so you can look us up on there. We don't have a social media for Cal because
B2B.
It's not really necessary, we decided, which was quite an executive decision when we took it. We thought, you know what, it's going to be time and effort for what? I don't know. I mean, our personal Instagrams are good enough, and we've got our links in there. So Sarah is sarahb.london, and I am Move with Tara on Instagram, and that's us. Drop us a line if you wanna.
Amazing, ladies. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to come on to the show. Really, really appreciate it. Learned so much from this. Cool. That's amazing.